Hi, I'm Dan, and welcome to this week's Elements Developer Diary. Now, this week I want to talk about animation, and this is a feature we've been working on for a long time. It's really cool, and it's finally ready to give you a demo and also ship it in a beta later this week. Now, these animation effects just concentrate on hover and click effects. It's not the scroll-based animation. We're working on that and it's looking good, but we don't want to muddy the waters and add too many types of animation to begin with, because we want to get your feedback on this and tighten this up and get this into something that's really useful for you. I think it already is, and I'm going to demo that today. Now, just before we dive into that, I want to explain where we came from and why the settings are now built into the components. Because previously, especially if you're in the private dev diary group long ago, you'll remember we had these animation components that are separate. Like, so I've got this here, this layer, and I can drop this in, and then anything I want to animate, previously I would need to drop into that layer. But you can see my object moves, and that's because now I need to, because it's a wrapper, I now need to set the alignment and the spacing on where I want that, and it's quite cumbersome to work with. And every time I want to animate an object, I need to add in another layer component to animate it, and this kind of got annoying as we were testing it and using it ourselves. It was like, this probably is not the way to go. So we've got rid of those, and we've built them into the components, as I said. So I'm going to show you how that works. So let's click this card here. And on this card, when I hover into it, I just want it to animate up slightly. And that's really easy to do. So I go to my settings for my card, and I click on effects. And here's all our effects settings. So I can set the timing. I can set the easing, so how the animation happens. I can set the origin from where it starts. I'll leave it on center so the animation happens from the middle. And the trigger is going to happen on hover, because that's what I want. And it's going to happen when I roll into it. So we've got our states here, the initial state and the active state. The initial is the state you see on screen now, and the active state is the hover effect, so when I roll into it. So I want this to scale up slightly. So I've gone to my active state, and we'll just make this about 110%. So now when I roll into it, it zooms up. And this is all happening in the editor as well, so you can see it live. It's very cool. Let's go and preview that in the browser. So really simple. It took me seconds to implement that. Really nice. So let me go on to the next example. The same here with a button. You know, it's on hover. So if we want to set the active state, I'll just zoom this up. So now we've got a nice little hover. And of course you can do this on a heading. So the effects, I just go to my effects, and we want it to happen on hover. And let's say on the initial state, I want it blurred. So we'll kind of reveal the text when we hover over it. So now when I hover in there, it reveals. So really easy to set these things up. As you can see, it's very cool stuff. We can also move things when we hover into them. So let's translate this a little bit. So you can see as I type in these numbers, it moves. So this is the initial state, and it just animates like that. Let's set that back to 0. And this is the vertical. So let's say -50. Yeah. All right, we'll do -50, and I'm going to do that on the active. So when it's active, it's going to go up. So when I roll into it, you can see it just animates up. So pretty cool. You can have a lot of fun with this. Yeah. Those are some simple examples of just hovers and how quick it is to set that up. It's literally a second just to go onto there, set the state, and boom, you're away. You don't have to animate things either. You can just use the mode, and you can just make it static. So, you know, if you just wanted to rotate something, I've got my wonky fruit website here, and I just want to rotate that a little bit. And we'll rotate this one. And again, I just want it static because, oops. Yeah, there we go. Let's preview that. So now I've got these wonky titles. You know, there's no rollover effect, but it looks pretty cool. And I might want to do that in a design. So while this is an animation feature, it's really flexible to be able to, you know, change things. Because I can also use the transform here as well. So I can move this around if we wanted to move it up a little further, you know, to overlap that. It's kind of cool. We can also change, instead of hover, we can have a click state. So if I click on it, it will trigger the effect. So I've swapped both of these to click, and the initial state is wonky, but then my active state is straight, and it's all back to normal. So we could do that on the card as well, and then we'll go and view this in the browser. So the initial state is a little bit wonky. And because this is my wonky fruit site, that's what I'm going to do. Let's do that. Click and rotate this on the initial state. And we'll just do this one as well. Let's click and let's rotate there. So let's go and view that. So now I can click on these and I can tidy up my website. And we'll make them all, there we are. And we've tidied up the layout, very nice. So you can have a lot of fun with this. There's a lot of use cases. Let's start looking at a slightly more complex example. So I've got a photo grid here, and let me just duplicate this because I think it will be good to show off this as a global as well. So I've got my images here, and this could be a little gallery, a little grid of images, and I want a little effect on there. So I want it on hover, and I want it to happen on self, and when it's active I want the image to zoom in a little bit. Now that's great and that's working, but that's not really what I had in mind. I wanted the image to zoom up slightly, but I wanted it to be within the bounds of the original image. I don't want it to get larger. I just want the image to go forward. And what we need to do, we need to apply the overflow. We want to switch that off so it doesn't scale outside the bounds. So this image is sitting inside a grid item. And so what we can do, we can switch the overflow to hidden. And let's just do that on my other items for when we animate these. Sorry. So now when I hover on this, you can see we don't see the outside of the image. So however much I scale it, we only see that. And we could rotate it, which is very cool. And we can do another, we can do a different effect on here, like the initial state. Let's scale it up a bit, and we could blur it. Let's go and view that in the, so that one twists and then it blur and it just comes into focus, which is really nice. And this one, let's have an effect on this one. We could hover the active state. Let's scale it. It's looking good. And yeah, we could move that around, give it a little twist, make it bigger. So now we've got three different effects. Oh, maybe we'll rotate it the other way. Yeah, well, 180. There we are. So now we've got three different effects, and they're all clipped. Because if I just go back to this one and set that to visible, you'll see now, you know, that's not at all what we wanted. That's that's pretty crazy, that effect, and it, you know, overlaps and ruins the rest of our layout. So that's why overlay hidden is pretty useful. So you can do these things. Right. Let's go to see how you could work on globals. I'm going to get rid of these, and we could make this. Let's let me just select these grid items and set the overflow to hidden. And what we could set this image as a global, which is really useful. So we could apply the effects to all of our, let's have a few more grid items, to all the items in our gallery. So let's convert this to a global, and you see it appears in here. And I'm going to rename it to image animation, so I know. And let me drop a couple more of these in. So any changes I make to a global will happen to all of them. So now let's see. What we want is we want a nice hover effect, and we want let's scale it up, and then when you hover into it you can see the full image. So now that's really nice. These are the same images. We obviously want different images. Let's add our globals to there as well. And now to replace the images, we just need to break the link on the global, which we do here. And then I'll drop in another one, and let's break the link there. And we'll drop in another image. Got to break the link. Break the link there. We'll drop in another one and break the link. And let's drop in another image. So now we've got this nice little gallery, and all the images are overridden, so they're custom, but the animation for all of them stays the same. So, you know, if we wanted to blur them all, we can do that. This is really, really cool stuff. When you combine, I mean, this is the power of Elements here, the way we've built it, that it makes this stuff really trivial to do. We've got custom images in here, but the animation is shared between all of them because it's a global component. And it's really, really cool. And we could obviously break the link if we wanted to change some settings on any of these. But it's just, you know, all of these are changing. It's just, you know, I use this stuff every day, but it's still, I'm still blown away by it. Let's set those to 0. There's the, it's just, it's so, this stuff is so fun to work with. It really is. You can, and it's so easy, and because it's WYSIWYG and you're just seeing it live, it's super powerful. I mean, if you were trying to do this in CSS, if you're writing this, it's going to be a lot of code for you to write and work out and fiddle with, but this is all visual. It's really cool. So I hope that comes across here, that this the stuff we're adding, is easy to take this for granted, but I don't see any other editors, especially on the Mac, working this well. I mean, I'm going to say that because we're building it, but I really, you know, I really do feel that it's lovely. Really good stuff. Yeah, you can have a lot of fun. A lot of fun with this. Right. Before we finish up, let me show you one more example, because it's all very well animating one item, but sometimes you want to animate multiple items in an element, like in a component. And while we have the settings to animate these items, you sometimes want them all to happen at the same time when you hover over a group. So that's exactly what we've enabled. So now, and I'll show you how this works in a minute, when I hover into here, we've got multiple animations going on. And this is really easy to do in Elements. It's hard to do outside of Elements, but we've made it really easy. So these complex effects where I've got multiple things happening, it's really cool. Right, so let me show you how this works, how we can build this. Let's animate, I've got this static one here. This is a copy of this, but with no animations on it, and I'll show you how we set this up. And the magic all happens on here. We can set the trigger, we obviously want it to happen on hover, but we can set a parent item for the animation to happen. And if I go to here, these are all wrapped in a flex item and a container and a grid item. So I can pick one of these parent items for the animation to happen on. So let's get this animated. We will just do, what should we do? We'll scale this. We're going to scale this up. Let's do that. We're going to scale this up, and at the moment, nothing's happening when I hover into our like wrapper area here. So what we need to do on the image, we just need to tell it to the animation to happen either when we're in the container or grid item. I'm going to use flex here because the flex runs to the edge. You can see my flex is a complete wrapper there. So now when I roll into here, the animation is happening, and we can just do the same on here. So let's what I'm going to do, let's offset that -100, and we'll set it to be transparent. And again, we want that to happen on the flex. So now that comes in, and we'll do the same here. Let's go the other way with the opacity. We need it to happen on the flex. And the button, let's scale it up big. Let's put it in there, and the opacity to 0. So we could also, let's make that big. We could also set the opacity to 0 there, just for showing this off. So now when I hover into here, you can see all these elements animate in. It's quite jazzy, but not what I would do. You know, we want something a bit more classy like this. But this kind of shows off how you can have multiple items animating at the same time. And of course, I can select the container, and I can have animations on that as well. So maybe on the initial state, let's rotate it here. And I can have this small. And now if I go to preview, you can see it also, our wrapper item is animating as well as all the items inside. So it's really powerful stuff. So you can have a lot of fun with this. Yeah, that's it for this week. It's really, really fun to play with, and I'm pleased that we can get this in the beta and you can have a play with it and see what you think and how it works for you. So have a play around, give us your feedback. What do you like? What don't you like? Yeah, just go to town, have fun, and give us your feedback. All right, and I will be back next week with another Elements Developer Diary as always. Thanks for watching this. Cheers. Bye.